So, wait, actually, can you go back to the first one? I want to read the title because I'm really proud of this. So Anisha, Soya, and I today will be talking about our summer experience working at MIT's Delta V Startup Accelerator, and our presentation is called Entrepreneurship Everywhere All at Once. But first, some introductions. My name is Dahui, she, her. I'm a senior who is majoring in MAS and neuroscience, and this summer I worked at a health tech and ed tech startup as a part of the program.
Hi, my name is Anisha. I use they, she pronouns. I'm a senior studying education and economics, and I worked for an ed tech company called Viswara over the summer.
Hi, my name is So Young. I'm a senior studying economics, and I was the co-founder and the CMO for Para.
So this is the Martin Trust Center for MIT Entrepreneurship. This building right off of the Red Line Campbell Square, actually, was where Soyoung, Anisha, and I spent most of our summer working in this program. This was the first in-person cohort since 2019, so we had the privilege of sharing the space with around 20 other startups, making for a cohort of roughly 70 people. But out of the whole cohort, only 4% were Wellesley students. And we don't think this is because it's super selective or no one ever gets that in, but it's because we didn't really hear about this opportunity very much around Wellesley. We're here today to talk to you guys because we'd really love to see this percentage rise in the coming semesters or years. But first you might be wondering, what even is a startup accelerator and why does it exist? Well, in short, it's really hard to start a successful business without mentorship, funding, and community. Therefore, startup accelerators are a great place for earlier stage businesses to develop their skills and grow their connections with other entrepreneurs. Typically, they are fixed term, meaning they take place over the span of a few weeks or a few months. They are cohort based in that multiple startups are accepted at once and encouraged to bond with each other and cross-collaborate. And of course, there's some sort of mentorship structure in place where industry professionals, serial entrepreneurs, and just people with a lot of experience creating startups are there to give guidance to all these teams. Now that you know generally what it is, I'm going to pass it off to Anisha so they can explain what made Delta V so special.
Go back. Delta V is a startup accelerator, specifically an educational startup accelerator, which is based at MIT over the course of 3 months. And as Jawei said, there were 22 startups in our cohort. So we began our program with 1 week of intense learning about entrepreneurship. So it's based around this book called Disciplined Entrepreneurship, which was written by the director of the MTC, which is Bill Aulette. And this course was meant to help us understand the process of narrowing down a customer, designing and iterating on a product, and then finally developing a business that can be scaled. Okay, so to get more deeply into what we were doing, we were working from the beginning of June till mid-September alongside 22 teams. So on Mondays, we used to have pod meetings, which is where you would get to work with around 5 other startups and talk about your plans for the week and what you've accomplished so far, so it kind of kept you on track for the summer. We also had leadership circles, which were kind of like startup group therapy, where we used to talk about some issues situationally and business-wise, personal-wise that would arise as a result of founding a startup. We had access to entrepreneurs and residents, so these were people who worked at the MTC, who were there for us, guiding us along the way as we built our ventures. We attended entrepreneurship crash courses over the course of the entire summer, and each month ended with a mock executive board meeting, which is to replicate the experience of answering to a board of trustees as you would with a regular company. And so this executive board is actually what determined the amount of funding our companies would get, which totaled up to $20,000. So we got a lot of money. So one thing that sets Delta V apart from every other startup accelerator is that it doesn't take any equity, or in other words, stocks, shares in the startups that it funds, so that it's purely an educational experience. So the entire program ends with demo days, which is when the startups get to pitch their ventures to investors and the media so that they become better known and they can start fundraising. The first one is in Cambridge at the beginning of September, and this one is open to the public. Some people here were there, and this is when we get to present to also like the MIT community and even the Wellesley community, and this introduced us to some customers and investors. And then we got to travel to San Francisco and New York City, paid for by the Trust Center, and got to talk to investors out in those cities too.
Okay, so now I will talk about how we all ended up in this program and our experience over the summer. So starting with my journey at Delta V, I have to go back to 1 year when I was a junior, and I wanted to explore something new in the world. So I went to MIT and just registered in a course that looked interesting, and that was New Enterprises. New Enterprises is the start point if you are interested in any kind of entrepreneurship journeys, because it's a course taught by Bill Aulet, who's the director of this entrepreneurial program at MIT. And with a team, you go and create a venture. So you follow the 24 steps, step by step, with the help of mentors and other resources that are available at MIT. So that was when I met my co-founder, Saul, and we started working on a venture that was ed tech based, because we were both very interested in education as well as the youth mental health crisis that was happening. So after finishing that course, we decided that we wanted to expand our venture and continue it. So as a team and sometimes by myself, we participated in several other programs at MIT, one being Start MIT, and the second one being Tactics course, that was the spring semester of 2022. And then through the Tactics course, a mentor recommended us to apply to Delta V. And at first I wasn't even sure if we were eligible for that program, because in order to apply to that program, I thought you needed a MIT student, and so was a Harvard student. But turns out, thanks to Brad and Feld Fellowship, any venture teams, as long as they have a Wellesley student in them, are all able to apply to this program. So we worked on the application for a month, and thankfully we got in, and that's where I spent the summer. Okay, so talking a little bit about the venture that I worked on, we were a digital platform where you take care of your own self by taking care of your virtual companion, and we grounded everything on positive psychology because we think that this is the only way to ease the youth mental health crisis at a scale. Okay. Talking about my summer, I can only describe it as a life-changing experience for me, because it was then that I could live as a full-time entrepreneur and what people call live and breathe in the work the whole day. So I was working on the venture 24/7, and I did all kinds of work. I talked with a lot of our customers to understand what was their need, what was their pain point. I also talked with a lot of psychologists and other people in positive psychology to understand what would be the best solution for the problem that we are facing. We also looked at competitive analysis to understand what ventures are out there and why it isn't being as effective, and also seeing the willingness to pay, the market share, and etc. If I have to say, if I have to point out one moment in summer I liked the best, that would be when a mock board member challenged us to think of another solution that's more scalable. And that evening, I remember spending 6-7 hours with my team until 2 a.m. brainstorming the best solution for that problem, and I think that's the most memorable part, because that's when I realized how much and why I liked entrepreneurship so much. Thank you, and now I'll pass it on to Anisha so she can talk about her experience.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about the Bachelor Felt internship slash fellowship opportunity. So first we applied in March with some short answer questions, a video about your interests and your resume. I filled out this application approximately one day before it was due because a friend sent it to me. So it's definitely not like really stressful to fill out. Then we met with the interviewer, who is the program coordinator. His name is Ben, and he kind of got to understand us better, kind of reviewed our application with us and tried to find companies that would match us the best. And then we got to meet with individual companies in a two-way matching process. So I had about 4 companies who had expressed interest in me. So one was a fashion company, ed tech, skincare, and wellness. So I got to meet with these individual companies and decide which one I wanted to work for, which was really empowering for me to get to choose where I worked. And we began Delta V starting in June, and thankfully, like, there's the cushion of the $2,000 a month you get for 3 months for your housing and living expenses, where I ended up living in a frat house. I can talk about that later. Yeah. So I'm going to talk more specifically about what I did in my work in EdTech. So first, the company I work for is called Viswara. It's an Indian EdTech company that works on developing digital and gamified content for Indian schools. So this company is, based in a different country, so I had to work with time zones a little bit, which was interesting. And so the predominant research I did was interviewing high school students about their experiences using digital content during the pandemic and trying to see where are the gaps, where are the problems with student learning online. I also did competitor analysis, where I would analyze differences between Viswara and other EdTech Indian companies to understand where we would have a leg up against them. I also, because of my experience in the education department at Wellesley, I've done a lot of research on various topics, and so this qualitative research experience allowed me to do a visual learning research where I would figure out the correlations between visual learning, gamification, and student retention rates. And I was able to present all these different kinds of research at the board meeting, so I was empowered as an intern to even get to present in front of board members. And I did this, monthly. I also was able to take all of my research and condense it into a final presentation that was shown to the startup founders. And outside of my own company, I was able to help another startup find their interns through the Wellesley and Seven Sisters network. So, Wellesley really has its reach out on MIT too. So here's some more things I did. I did a lot of social networking. If you follow me on Instagram, I got to, meet with people at there are other startup accelerators at MIT happening at the same time, so we got to meet with them. I went to the rooftop of a venture capital firm and had drinks with some venture capitalists on Newbury Street. So, I was living large. And I got a little stint in voice acting. So what we did was we filmed like a 30-second intro video for demo day, and I was the voice actor for our company and also the actor. So, a lot of experience. And I think the biggest thing that I've taken away is that I was able to do this entrepreneurship experience, which is so risky, without worrying about, when am I gonna get paid, because I have, Bachelor Fellowship getting me $2,000 a month. Like, I don't have to worry about it. I was able to work on my own time. I don't have to worry about hours, and I don't have to worry about my startup failing because it's not mine. I also ended up changing my career path, so I thought I was gonna be focusing more in economics, but it seems like I'm gonna be moving more to the tech side when I graduate.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Anisha said. I also really appreciated the flexibility, I think, that came day to day, because it wasn't kind of like a typical summer internship. But I kind of want to focus more on how this internship surprised me, because honestly, I entered the summer with a few reservations about the startup space. I think I was a bit disillusioned by the vapidness of grind culture and the types of people that I typically associate with entrepreneurship. But as I got to my founding team, or started working with my co-founders, I found that they regarded me as an equal member of the group. And because of that, they actually took my opinion seriously, which was good because I needed to learn how to build confidence in my ideas and share them out loud into a group. I also learned through this firsthand experience that entrepreneurship takes so much creativity, but they always come out in such fun and unexpected ways, both tangible and intangible. So for example, that 30-second video Anisha brought up, when we had the resources to do that, my co-founder suggested that I lead the video production. And this was so much fun because I got to meet with a video production company, draft a script, make a shot list, even source an actor and a location, which did just end up being my summer sublet apartment, but it was still really fun. This was one of my favorite things about the summer, this unpredictability. As a startup intern, you don't have a set job description. So every day I was dealing with new things. This kept the summer really exciting because I never knew what I would expect when I walked into the office. But where I found more value throughout the summer was this intangible practice of creativity. As an MAS student, I learned a bit about human-centered design in my coursework, but I've always wanted to know what it would look like put into practice. In short, HCD is the practice of designing really anything with the end user in mind. You're constantly prioritizing their needs and wants, that way when you actually end up making something, people actually want it. The number one thing that causes startups to fail is that they sell things that no one wants, much less even wants to pay for. So we constantly kept this in mind through continued primary market research interviews, where we would cold call or cold email people in the healthcare industry to really understand their problems, their day-to-day lives, their motivation for their work. This way, we actually knew what their problems were and our solutions were realistic. We were solving them, not creating problems and then selling a solution. This also brought about a sense of humility I hadn't expected with entrepreneurship, because you found out that you were wrong probably like 90% of the time. It was so important to learn from real life people through this primary market research, and it let us, rapidly prototype our solutions and iterate on them, accepting that, we don't have the answers, but instead have to find them from the people in the real world. This need to focus on the human side of human-centered design carried into getting to know entrepreneurship better as it overlaps with human-centered design. I would say that this internship really deepened my understanding of design and taught me that I always have to be learning from the people around me. This really carried over into bonding with the cohort as well. As the summer went through, the cohort became more than just people we shared the office with. The office space allowed for so much natural collaboration, and there were so many social events built into the program as well. For example, we had parties after demo days in order to celebrate all the hard work that went into all the planning. And there was a trip to the aquarium, even a cohort cruise on the Charles River. And getting to know all these different people in the cohort has led me to conclude that entrepreneurship is seriously for everyone. Whether you consider yourself a scientist, a creative, an artist, someone who's really type A, or someone who doesn't care about startups at all and has no interest in them, I can guarantee that there's a place for you, because I thought that before I entered the summer. I learned that entrepreneurship is really about this balance. You have to be wildly creative and optimistic and really ambitious, but you also have to be tactical and realistic and prudent. It's hard for one person to have that balance themselves, and that's why it's so important that we include basically just about everyone. So if anything we said in this presentation piqued your interest, or if you're curious, we really encourage you to check out the Delta V applications that should be coming out this March, or even just look at it. But now I'm going to pass it off to So-Young, and she can explain more resources at MIT and Wellesley and how to get connected with entrepreneurship.
Thank you. So as Jamie said, if you're interested in any of the programs that we talked about, you can just scan the QR codes. Those are the 4 programs that are like the biggest ones for entrepreneurial career at MIT. But you don't have to go off campus to explore entrepreneurship. There are a lot of orgs on campus that are grounded on entrepreneurship. Some examples being WeStart, which is Wellesley's Entrepreneurship Club, and Wellesley's Women in Business, which is Wellesley's Pre-Business Association. So please check them out if you're interested, and thank you so much for listening, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Well done, the 3 of you, that was fantastic. Particular questions that you have for our
I noticed that like a lot of you guys were studying like economics and stuff. So I was just wondering, how does your coursework, if at all, like tie into kind of like what you did over the summer? And like, do you feel like you built on that knowledge to like working with your startups and things like that?
I actually didn't use too much of my economics other than people being like, oh, you're an economics major, can you help me with this pricing thing? That would be about, I think I focused more on my education major, which is honestly surprising when you think about entrepreneurship, but I did a lot of qualitative research more than quantitative. So.
I think for me, it wasn't econ specific that helped me, like that I used for my entrepreneurial career. It was more of like the soft skills that you learn in liberal arts education. Like for instance, we constantly have to be talking to our customers to really understand where the problem lies and find the best solution. Just like the problem solving skills that you all constantly learn in all the majors, I was able to apply them, and that helped me a lot.
Are you going to be working full time on your app after you graduate? And what was the process of like putting a team together to work on it with you outside of your co-founder?
Yeah, that's a great question. And sadly, I decided to move on from the venture after the summer. The team was in the stage of fundraising, and I wanted to explore another interest that I had. So for now, I said bye to the venture. But and the second question was, and then throughout the program, we actually had our team was 5 in total. So we had 2 product team members who were building the app itself. We had a UX UI designer. So I think another thing that I learned through Delta V was how to work collaboratively and really see potential in people and like working together to get the most out of the work together. I don't know if that answered your question.
This question is more for you because you talked about humans in your design and human-computer interaction, and I just think that's like a really interesting field. And when I think about right, like interaction, I think more about like applications, like websites, and like more interface things. And so I was just wondering, right, like more about the intricacies of like what you did related to that, and also like what field did you go into? Ethics. Sorry.
Yeah, so you're asking like day to day what I did that had to do with HCD.
Right.
Yeah, so it was a lot of those like early discovery stage things where I wasn't actually like building or honestly designing anything, but more so presenting these like representations of solutions and showing them to like doctors, nurses, like population health data scientists, just like people in the field that were reasonably going to be interacting like with whatever product we ended up making. That's something they emphasized a lot throughout the entire summer was like don't build too early, because then you would have invested all this time and maybe resources in like hiring, an engineer, a software engineer, front end, whatever. But then it's like all the time is lost because no one actually wants it. So I definitely spent a lot more time, like I said, in like the human side, talking to people, reaching out to people.
What are you gonna do?
Oh yeah. I don't really know. Currently, I'm hoping to do something creative after graduation, especially because I was going to recruit into tech, but it's not going super well, kind of like I expected. So yeah, I'm definitely keeping my options open. Honestly, I would literally do anything because I don't know that much about the job market, honestly.
Good luck.
Thank you. Good luck to you.
I actually want you to find it.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I'll let you know whenever I find it.
And just a quick pitch for career education. You'll have access to career advising even after you graduate. You are smart and capable. You are Wellesley students. You've all done amazing things. Career education has your back.
Thank you so much for all of you for speaking. So I'm just wondering, since I'm a first year, I was wondering whether the Delta V program is like, can I apply as a first year, and if not, what would you advise first years to do to add to or like build onto their resume for applying to programs like Delta V or other entrepreneurial related programs?
sophomores
Yeah,
in
you
our
can apply
program
as a
our first
freshman.
year.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can also apply as a graduating senior. I don't quote me on that, but yeah,
Yeah.
really any year. So we're not just targeting
You just have
underclassmen.
to apply as a current Wellesley student.
Yeah. So yeah, you can apply. I would say like, what was your second question?
Like, how do I build on my resume? Because I
Yeah.
don't have a lot of courses or skills under my belt right now as a first year to apply to.
Well, I would argue you have a lot of courses, like
Okay.
8 by the time you get into the summer. But also like, I think I like what Soyeon was saying. It doesn't really matter what kind of course you're taking, but so much more so like what you're doing in each course. So let's say like you have a course where you have to public speak a lot. Like that's a really strong skill, and you can rely almost entirely on like talking about that course to like prove that you have experience in this field. Also, I would say like org participation, you can rely on that or like mention that. Yeah,
You can also spin any story into like resume worthy. So like, I can call myself an entrepreneur since one time I baked a cake and sold it to someone. Like, you can just take anything and turn it into a story, and I think you're more than qualified.
Yeah.
Because I think in startups, like really the diversity of knowledge is really valuable.
And that was something I hadn't expected. Like people want people who don't know anything about their space because it means you provide an outside perspective and you're outside of the bubble. So honestly, even if you don't feel like you have that many things you can spin, what you can say is how eager you are to learn, right? Because Delta V is like ultimately a learning experience. They want people who are enthusiastic about learning new things. So it's not that you have to like demonstrate, this list of things you know. More so maybe past times where you've had to learn something new or have done something you didn't really understand initially. Like that was a big part, I think, of my like rhetoric too when I was applying, because I was like brand new to like really any kind of business, economics.
I think, adding on to all this, like kudos to you to know what you want to do as a first year, and there are a lot of like programs, new enterprises. I would highly recommend you to check it out, especially if you're thinking of applying to this program as a team, like bringing a team in, because they do check that you have done several programs at MIT before getting admitted to Delta V.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
And if you want to get connected to any of our directors, like send the DM, I'll connect you to.
What else might you say to encourage one of your Wellesley students to apply for a program like this? It sounds like it was a really good experience for all three of you. Maybe somebody's on the fence or feeling like, oh gosh, I don't know if I'm qualified or if I can do this.
I think if you're in liberal arts, you're more qualified than you think you are. I think, so I worked on a team of all men except for me, and they were all engineers, which means their speaking skills are quite trash. That's why I was allowed to present at these board meetings, is because I'm good at talking and I can make things understandable. And I was also, I'm the only American person, and it was an Indian company. So I was able to kind of explain things in metaphors that like maybe Americans would understand, and otherwise couldn't be communicated. So I really think that the ability to write, which you gain at Wellesley, is really helpful. Like taking writing classes and like being forced to write papers all the time makes you like way better MIT students in anything that's like humanities focused.
I also think like seeing the kind of interdisciplinariness that they tried to create in the program itself was like, oh, okay, well we already come from that kind of diverse background. So yeah, I really want to emphasize what Anisha said. It's a strength. That's why we need more Wellesley people to join. Yeah.
I love Joey too, the way you talked about like, this was just not what I expected and it completely changed my perspective. I wonder if the other two of you presenters could maybe talk about something that was surprising and fun and interesting. Was there an interesting, and Joey, there may be other unexpected stories that you would like to share.
I think I won't be answering directly that
That's
question,
okay.
but this program, now that I think, really helped me know what I want, like what my strengths are, and where I want to spend my next 7-10 years after. Because since it's like a entrepreneurship, you don't have to, you get to work with so diverse types of people. You get to build your own thing. So you have to be constantly thinking of what's the next step for the venture. And that was really helpful for me.
I think it was really like surprising and also helpful to see where people like mess up in the entrepreneurship process. Like I get to watch everyone like fall apart and come back together without like having to worry about myself. So we had one company where the CEO left, which was a huge like dramatic experience in the office. We saw a lot of stuff happen to people's companies. Like they've completely started building this one business and completely shifted over to something entirely different. So this like iterative process, you expect people to stick to one thing and like build up on it, but then like Jia was talking about during the presentation, like there's no point in building a product if nobody wants it. So you have to start with like talking to customers and understanding them, and that relies a lot on like understanding the human experience.
That's fantastic. Any other questions? Thank you. Yep, go ahead.
I have a question for So-Young. It's like I'm kind of a bit curious about what's your plan for the next 10 or 7 or 10 years.
What is it?
Well, as a senior who's trying to get recruited when it's about to like fall into recession, I don't know exactly, but I realize like what my strengths are, which is I am a very people person, and I also like solving other people's problem and feel very like good about that. So my communication skill, I also like sales, HR, marketing. Those are the fields that I think I can excel in, and I do want to spend more time in. So I really don't know. Hopefully, I get a job soon.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I have a question for the group. Do we
By all means.
have any like entrepreneur, like anybody who's thinking of an idea?
Not that they want to confess to, probably.
I kind of want to do something relating to entrepreneurship because I did a kind of summer startup. I work in a summer startup. I work in a startup this summer, and I kind of really got into entrepreneurship. And I feel like it kind of opened a new door for me, but I'm not exactly sure about like how can I start, or I also don't have a really kind of tangible idea in my mind right now. But yeah.
Perfect words. I entered like not knowing anything.
What year did you take that course?
I took it my fall of junior year.
Okay.
Because before that I was recruiting for finance, then I realized like no Swift. So
Why did you decide to change?
actually I think I feel very lucky that I found New Enterprises, because I like never in my life I would have thought I would like entrepreneurship, but I just like took that course, really fell into Bill Aulet's teaching style. I really enjoy his classes. Bill Aulet. Yeah, he's very charismatic, like fun person. So like during the classes, I was like, gosh, I love
Say it
this.
to the
I love it. So that was what really got me into this role.
Can I ask one more? This is kind of mine. How was living in the frat?
Well, since you've been there, it was good. I think if you're worried about like housing in Boston, because that is actually pretty finicky, like trying to find a summer sublet, I would look into the MIT interfraternal system that they have. It's like online. You can apply to live in frats. It was pretty affordable, especially with the stipend I got from Bachelor Feld, and free in-unit laundry, industrial kitchen, friends, mostly frat boyfriends. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you all very much. What a fabulous presentation.